Imagine a time when daily tasks become a challenge or a sudden accident changes everything. Who would care for you and how would it be paid for? These are tough questions, but understanding long term care options now can give you peace of mind and protect your loved ones from future burdens. It's not about being scared, it's about being prepared. Welcome to Fading Memories, your source for all things dementia caregiving. I'm your host, Jen Fink, and I have had 3 generations of loved ones with dementia, and I'm here to share the knowledge I've gained with you. Welcome back, Fading Memories listeners. It's Jen Fink, your host, and with me today is Raymond Levine. He is from the beautiful state of Washington overlooking the Puget Sound, and we've been having a nice conversation, but I thought we should probably start recording and talk about long-term care insurance, how to get other people to pay for it, and all things long-term care that we are interested in. So thanks for joining me, Raymond.
Well, I'm delighted that you asked me to be a guest on your program, Jennifer.
Well, thank you. So, as I mentioned, Calendly is not letting me read anything today. So why don't you give the listeners your background, and then we'll just start talking about your your soapbox topic.
Well, my background is so vast and so interesting, but I'll summarize anyway. Um, my name is Raymond Levine. I live in Gig Harbor, Washington State, and I grew up in Los Angeles. I was in the U.S. Army. I was in Vietnam with the 173rd Airborne Brigade. Um, I went to USC in Southern California, and I have my MBA from Claremont Graduate School, Drucker School of Business. Uh, and my career has been varied. I've been most of it in financial services. I've been in commercial banking. I've been in mortgage banking. I even spent time being in executive search. I've been also involved in property management. But for the last, decade and a half, I've been involved with long-term care insurance, or as I like to say, long-term care benefits. And what that means is it's a special kind of insurance. It's not health insurance. It's not Medicare. It's not automobile insurance. It's not umbrella policy. It's a special kind of insurance that allows people to pay for either home care or caregiving, and depending on the plan, that it will do both. But in the things that we'll talk about, it isn't the insurance that matters to people because look, who wants to buy insurance from an insurance salesman? Here's another thing I was thinking about it is that if when you think about insurance, you think about the thing's fun to buy. It's fun to go to a restaurant. It's fun to buy. We were talking about cars. It's there are a lot of things that are fun to buy, but this is not I've been waiting to buy long-term care insurance. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it means, and I don't know if I'll ever use it or I don't want to use it. So why do I even want to talk about it? Why do I even want to think about it? Why do I want to spend my money? And there are all kinds of ways that, it's like a marketing thing, peace of mind. You won't ruin your estate. You can keep your estate planning in place. You won't bother your family. You have all these nice things, or sort of coating or chocolate to say, what it is to make you feel better, or to say, oh, I never thought about it that way. But here's what I think is the way to think about it, is that first of all, none of us in high school, I know I never did, you may take class in, civics, maybe home economics, but you didn't learn, I never took a course on how to buy insurance of any kind.
Nope.
And or how to invest. Now, maybe in college, depending on what kind of business courses you took, you learned something about the stock market, and certainly you took economics. So you sort of learned the idea of micro and macro economic theory. But most of the time, what did you do? Well, if you're old like me, what happens is you ask your parents. You say, hi, what, or your parents would say, hi, you need to do this, you need to, you need to own this, or you need to have that. The other thing that uh, uh, has evolved is that it used to be most of, you went to work for a company, and the company would take, they'd provide, most of your basic benefits, your home, your health insurance, your, basic life insurance, and retirement. A lot of them had, retirement plans. Now, all that has evolved away mostly from companies, and now, excuse me, it's back to do it yourself or do it, personally. But and so these are things, you have to learn. But somewhere along the line, people start either personally with caregiving, or they have friends or family that need caregiving, or they have advisors if they do advocate to say, look, there's something you need to think about. And again, sometimes you say, gee, you got to talk to some insurance salesperson or the financial planner that will do it, and they'll tell you, how much it costs. We'll do all, we can talk about how much it costs, and uh, 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 but I'll tell you, as I get older, what I think really matters to people, or let me rephrase it. What I think really matters to me is that if I can't do things on my own, and Americans like to make decisions. They like to feel, like to feel we're in charge. We're masters of our destiny.
That is true.
However, when you're not well, you're not a master of your destiny. And I'll tell you a personal story. My parents were lawyers. And father eventually became a judge, but he's still a lawyer. And they were bright people. They were, involved. They took care of their lives. However, when my father had a number of times some long-term care issues. He had a heart attack, he broke his back, and eventually he died of a heart condition. And my mother was the one that made decisions. And they were both, bright people. They knew how to make, mostly good decisions. But I remember my father saying to my mother, he thought when the doctor was asking him questions, he thought, that he was making really clear decisions. Eventually, he said to my mother, I really didn't know what I was talking about. I'm really glad that you were there to be an advocate, which leads me back to you. When you're not well, or you have a cognitive issue, or you're frail, you're not in control of your own destiny. You like to think you are, and you're an adult. So unless you have the judge that says we're giving the powers to somebody else, you as an adult have the right and have the power. I don't know if it's a privilege, but you certainly do. And that is where I enjoy doing what I'm doing, is to say, look, if you have a plan, whether you own a long-term care insurance plan, whether you have millions of dollars that you can, self-fund or do it yourself, whether you have your loving family and your loving friends that are, they can't wait to, to be your caregivers. They can't wait to take care of all your needs. They can't wait to have you tell them and order them and command them, of all the things you want, just like, a 5-year-old. I mean, because eventually that's sort of what we become. Even though, we have the adult and we're supposed to be mature, we're not. And so what I think bothers people, and I think about it, is that it's the loss of control. It's the loss of, being able to make decisions. It's saying somebody else is going to do that. And the reason this happens is because most of us aren't trained or have, I didn't take classes in caregiving. I don't, I mean, we know sort of how to take care of each other, but look, if you think of marriages, that takes time, to learn how do you be in a marriage? How do you cooperate with each other? How do you listen to each other? And so this is what I think, I've sort of evolved to, is I've stopped telling people, and more empathetic. I want to understand what it is on a from somebody's perspective, not mine, not the insurance salesman, or not the long-term care person or the advisor. It's, what do you understand about what you want to happen if you need caregiving? and what things will be important to you if you do. If you don't want to lose control of your finances, if you don't want to lose control of where you want your caregiving, if you don't want to lose control of who will be responsible for your caregiving, if you don't want to be worried or your family worried about who's going to be compensated, because believe me, everybody, even if you volunteer, somebody's making a financial contribution. None of this stuff is free. It is
Nope.
not free. But we spend more time, talking about how much it costs. But I think it's more important to say, how do you feel about it, and how is not doing something, how's it going to affect others? Because if you love your family, or even if you like them, you know, then it's empathetic to say, how would, if I don't plan it, somebody else is going to make a plan for me. You have no choice. Somebody is going to make the decision. And this is where, people, it gets into mental health issues. It gets into emotional issues. It gets into physical issues. My mother was died at 103 a couple of years ago. Was a feisty, bright human being that never liked my humor. I have no idea why, but she never liked my humor. But she knew how to make decisions. But even then, you get tired day after day, because it isn't going to Disneyland. Caregiving is not going to Disneyland. It isn't a different ride or a different Adventureland. It is day to day. This, sort of the same thing when you get up in the morning till the time you go to sleep. There's a routine. So this is what I think is important. It's not what you do, it's why, or having a plan, so that when you need, when you get to a point, and it can be almost any age, because people get into accidents. Doesn't matter what age. You can get ill. Doesn't matter what age. You can get cognitive. There are more people in their 30s and 40s that are getting a touch of cognitive issues. Frailty is a different. It's usually, for us old people, but these can happen at different times. But we always think when we're younger, nothing will ever happen to us. Thing is, when you're 35 or 40, you think, 30 or 40 years, that's a long time away. It's it, it's it it's a moment in time. I mean, I'm saying the days are shorter. I'm not saying they're longer, but somehow, you wake up and you're 65 or you're 70, say, how did this happen? And
I just had that conversation with my daughter and my son-in-law because I knew he was 20 years younger than me. His birthday's coming up in July. And I'm like, is it 20 years? Like, are you going to be 39 and I'll be 59 in November? Or is it you're going to be 38 because I'm 58? And he goes, no, I'm going to be 39. We actually had to do the math. And I said, oh, so that means next year you'll be 40, I'll be 60, and my daughter will be 35. I'm like, I guess we should have like a 135th birthday party. And but all three of us were like, oh, God, grown. It's just like turning 50 was no big deal, but 60 is starting to kind of tweak me. But I got a little bit more than a year to go, almost a year and a half. So it'll probably be okay. And my paternal grandmother lived to 103. Was your mom fairly cognitively fine till the end?
she was cognitively, it was the last 6 or 8 months that she was physically deteriorating. She was slowly actively dying. But before that, I mean, she had caregiving for 18 years because she broke both her arms. So she qualified for long-term care benefits. She owned it. Um, so there were physical things she couldn't do, but cognitively, I mean, she could sell travel so long as she had care support, people, people to help her. But incrementally, she needed more and more hours of care. So last 5 years or 6 years, she had 24-hour care. And if you think about living in Los Angeles, the west side of Los Angeles near UCLA, having 24-hour caregiving, let's say $50, $60 an hour, 20, do the arithmetic.
Yeah, that's like when my dad was on hospice, we had 24-hour caregivers for the two of them, and it was over $700 a day in 2017, which is a lot cheaper than the memory care my mom was in for 3 years, which was $5,600. I don't remember if it went up. I remember $5,600 because it was supposed to go from 5,600 to 7,200 because at the start of the pandemic, she fell and broke her leg. And because she had significantly advanced Alzheimer's, I was like, I'm not super comfortable with anesthesia on somebody whose brain is already has an issue. You can't tell me she's not going to wake up way worse feisty. We don't know what's going to happen. And literally, that was a double edged statement there. She went back to the care home on March 12th. On March 17th, probably similar to you guys, they shut everything down. I didn't get to see her for 2 weeks. I was blessed with being able to see her. One of the caregivers that I was really close to called and told me that, mom's not doing so great. We think she'll benefit from a visit from you, which I have since learned means they know they're dying. And so
Well,
I
it's also
saw her.
the isolation. Everybody was feeling isolation. Sorry to interrupt you. Yeah, what people feel is isolation, especially somebody that's not well feels as I think they were feeling abandoned. Why aren't they coming to visit me? What's wrong? Doesn't she like me anymore?
Yeah, that was my biggest concern. She thought I was her best friend. And I took her out. We'd go to the park or the pool or the library and we'd go watch kids. I always joked with people that we were the little old ladies creeping on the children, because I like to be weird. And I was concerned, it's like, okay, it's been a week. Okay, it's been a week and a half. She's going to forget that connection. And then where are we going to be at? That's going to be terrible. So I didn't get to see her before she passed, but I am 100% convinced she had a moment of clarity where she realized there was this virus thing. People weren't being able to visit. She wasn't going to be able to go to the park and watch kids. And her rent care fee was going up from 5,600 to 7,200. And that was ridiculous. So I'm out because that would have been my mom. And she passed away March 31st in the afternoon. I'm like, that's pretty much her. She liked to procrastinate. So, it was a nice clean break. Didn't have any gray area of, well, she lived X number of days with the new fee, blah, blah, blah. She made it easy on that end. But, yeah, between in-home care and memory care, I'd have to add, I know the memory care was over $250,000, but I never have added the 3 months of in-home care over $700. I should probably do that just for giggles.
Which is money that has to come from someplace. How did where did the money come to pay for it? Did she have long-term care benefits, or it was out of family money?
Basically, we rented out her home, which was paid for.
Yeah.
In the San Francisco Bay Area. So again, cheap real estate like your mom's. And between the income from the rental, Social Security, and a small infusion from the financial planner would put money from their investments into the trust account. That covered everything, but it did not alleviate my continuous concern she was going to run out of money because I wasn't looking I knew the house was an asset. My husband's in real estate, so I'm not, immune to that thought. But I was always freaked out that she was going to run out of money at the end because she went to memory care at 74 and died at 77. So, minus falling and breaking her leg, she could have lived another 5 years. Alzheimer's was advanced enough that probably wasn't the case, but everything else about her was still pretty healthy. So it was hard to know. And like I said, my maternal grandmother lived to 91 with vascular dementia. So I was, always freaking out about money. I'm always freaking out about money.
And that's what it is with everybody. Everybody, even if they don't think they are, they are. Usually I don't do this, but we'll do a little, financial stuff here is to say, look, when supposing I quote a premium of 300-400 a month, people say, "Oh, that's so much." I can't do that. That's too much money. But what sometimes don't do is work back. First of all, when you buy a car, I mean, I see these, truckers, they're $800, $1,200 a month, whether you finance it. So don't tell me that, about this, that you're outraged, let's say it's 3, 4, 500 a month, depending on your age and a bunch of, what you buy and how long you buy it. It's, it's what you value or what's at the moment. Look, I like immediate gratification like anyone else. I'm a consumer too. I like to consume stuff. However, I'm also conscious enough the things that I need to, maybe I can't have as nice as something, but I putting the money in for, retirement or other benefits that when I need it, that the other things that I work for aren't taken away. Because look, supposing I spend, just rounding up, 100,000 on long-term care benefit premiums. And you can say, "Oh, that's a lot of money."
It's a lot of money.
Yeah, it is a lot of money. But if you did it for, over 20, 25 years, I mean, it isn't that bad. But supposing then you have 3, 4, 5 years and it pays you 500,000 or 1 million, was that a good investment? Was that a good deal?
Yeah.
And did you have to necessarily take money, as much money out, if you had to take any, from your savings and investment or retirement, or you had to rent out your house, or it's a good deal because the money that you leave in is investing, and there's the idea that it's compound interest, and compound interest works well, and it's worked over a long time. Now, don't believe Raymond Levine. Ask Warren Buffett, because he's a lot wealthier and supposedly brighter and a better investor. Ask him; he'll tell you the same thing. Or even if you don't, I've heard him say that, so that's why uh, um, it's you want to allocate your money in ways that it benefit that it benefits you or your family. And look, unless if you're a billionaire, yeah, there are things you can do that the rest of us can't. Um, so what is helpful is, it, look, insurance isn't perfect. It isn't, and dealing with insurance companies isn't perfect. People complain about the government. If you want to have problems, deal with the public or private companies and see sometimes the problems you can have. Um, but one of the things that I read that people are concerned about is they'll say, well, what do I have to do to qualify for it? And I think, and that isn't, they don't talk about, when you get sick, you're sick, and you go to the doctor, you go to urgent care, you go to emergency, and you say, "I'm sick." Well, what are the symptoms? Well, I've got a cold, or I have a sore throat, or I haven't been sleepy. I mean, I've got an emergency. I've seen people come with gunshot wounds. I don't think you need to, do a diagnosis. There was a guy came in one time. He had been stabbed.
Ooh.
So you don't have to do much diagnosis to know there's a problem and that they need to do something about it. But with long-term care benefits, you have to qualify to get it, both financially, and you have to qualify both for health assessment, depending on your. Look, and people say, "Wow, those insurance people, they're awful. They don't want to give me covered." Have bad credit, see how easy it is to get a credit card. Have
Yeah.
bad credit, see how it is to get a real estate loan. Have bad credit on anything. You want a car and you have bad credit. Of course, you can go to something. Have bad credit, no problem, except your interest rate. I mean, it is based on your health, and it is based on your financial circumstance. You got to be able, you got to have money to pay for it. If you don't have any money, there are things you can do. I mean, if you have, there's a plan. It's available in all 50 states, and you can get 150 hours of home care for $95 a month.
That sounds like a good deal.
You don't have to. You don't have you. Other than you can't be on active caregiving at the moment. You don't have to have any health. You don't have to have anything. And if you need somebody, you don't have to go through the regular thing of the two activities of daily living. You just have to say, I'm sick, and so I need to have somebody come in and take me to the doctor, or help me with my medications, or move me around. So if you can't do it at 95, then there's nothing, the conversation is over. Or you can do it, but you don't want to because you don't know why. But anyway, getting back to the reason people that have owned plans that complain about it to the insurance commissioner, or they'll complain to on social media, is that with a long-term care plan, if you own it, there are certain criteria that you have to be in order to get the benefits. The first is the two activities of daily living: eating, bathing, continence, transferring, or something else. Something, it isn't the illness, it's what has the illness done to you that you need caregiving. What's happened? So if you look, if you have a stroke, or you have cognitive, it's a done deal. You're going to do it. You just have to go through a process. But if it's you have COVID, or you sprained yourself, and you're going to be 6 weeks, uh, the plan that I suggested, then it wouldn't be met. And sometimes you might need a couple of plans to do different things. Just like you might have a hospital indemnity plan, you might have your health care. So you can stack them, is what I'm saying. It's money, but then if you're concerned about it or bothers you, it's better. It's like a warranty on your body.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
What's the
So,
name of this program?
oh, it's called True Freedom.
True Freedom. That's easy to
Yeah.
remember.
It's in any state. You can do it. We can do it online. And you can apply for it in the morning and be approved in the afternoon. Because it's not an insurance plan. It's a subscription plan. It's like getting AAA or a Costco membership. And I mean, it is. But it does the same things, and you can contact the same kind of agencies that you would, moms at home, or some of the other major companies, or they have a number of companies. And so depending where you live, if you live in a urban area, you're more likely. If you live in a more remote area, you might not have the same services, but there are flexibility that they will allow if nothing else is available. So they're not that stringent. But you have to know how to, in anything you buy, you got to know what you're buying. A lot of people, when they buy insurance, sometimes they don't know what they're buying, even if you buy it online. You buy something, but then if the insurance company says, well, we're going to decline, the reason is because you didn't know what you bought something, but you didn't buy what they're insuring, or you didn't get the rider, whatever it is. So you got to know what you're buying, which is why, either if your wealth or financial, or you talk to Raymond Levine, I will, I won't just say it. I will, I put it in a summary form that I send to my clients. So I said, look, you can do it digitally, or, keep a folder and keep it manually available. And it'll be a thing of, what happens, because you'll forget. I mean, I forgot what I had for breakfast on Monday. But if it really mattered to me, I would write it down. But those are things that are important. Is your that I will write it out for you. Or if I forget, which I doubt, write it out yourself, to know what, how to qualify for it. And if I've had situations where, there is a problem, that I have people that will be the advocates to help them if there's some particular reason. Sometimes it is the insurance company. Sometimes it's they didn't do what they were asked to do. They didn't get the doctor's things, or something happened in the paperwork. There are a lot of things that could happen, but there are advocates that can help people to get the benefits. But look, I, as a long-term care benefits advisor, call me the insurance salesman if you want, is if they really don't want to do, it's a contract. And so take it to your attorney. I'm not, I'm, if there's something where whatever it is I've said, recommended, and they haven't done what they're supposed to do. And I'm licensed with, all the best companies, but things happen. Then take it to your attorney, have them look it over, and they can give you advice whether uh, uh, um, they didn't have to or they did, and get legal advice.
That makes sense. I have a quick question. So, is there a time limit with this true freedom? So, like if you're dealing with somebody with Alzheimer's and then you need a little bit more help, that obviously isn't going to change in the near future.
Well, okay. It the true freedom. I mean, it's a great it's a great plan. It's a great stack. Actually, I own it too. I own a long-term care benefit, but I have and the reason I did, and I'll get back to your question, is because when we bought ours, uh, 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 um, you have to qualify by days, and so in other words, I'd have to actually have caregiving services for 90 days before I get my benefits. There are others where you have it where as you use it that you qualify faster. So I bought the true freedom to say, look, if my wife and I need it, then at least will pay for that. So then it's subsidized that till I qualify for and I can show, look, yes, we had caregiving, we pay for it. Now give me my other benefits. Um, but true free, it's not just in time. It's like auto insurance or your home insurance. You got to do it. But and usually, hopefully it's a number of years because also if you buy it, you also get discounts for there's up to 5 years. I think it's 40% off. So if so in the 10th year, whatever until you need it, you keep getting discounts. However, it's not just in time. So if you're presently using caregiving, if you're presently on Medicaid or disability, no. But if let's say you're a year away or 2 years, you can do it at any age. It doesn't matter what age, and the premiums are the same. Doesn't matter whether you're 75 or 55 or 45, same premium.
That makes sense. So, you were saying that your mom was feisty, which that's sort of a DNA trait on both sides of my family tree. Did she talk to you about how she wanted to live that last decade and a half of her life, or was she like most people and just winged it until the end?
Ru- My mother didn't wing anything. No, she did. No, she was the planner. My father actually was more spontaneous. My mother was more the planner. Actually, that was her field was estate planning. So and she was methodical about it. And she was a good business person. I mean, and when I say she was a knowledgeable business person, and she knew how to invest. She knew how to borrow money. She knew how to spend money, and she was knowledgeable. And she didn't buy her long-term care plan until she was in her early 70s. And they weren't insurance buyers. They were not. I mean, they bought what they needed, but they didn't buy a lot of life insurance. But the only reason they bought the long-term care is because my father kept getting these long-term care issues, and it was expensive and took time away from my mother's practice in her life. So she bought it, and she was fortunate. She bought it in the early 90s when she was in her early 70s, and it wasn't an inexpensive premium. She complained about it, but she got everything back, every premium, and triple and quadruple more, everything she paid for, because she had a lifetime benefit. But she was in good enough health to do it. So she was a planner. But interesting you asked that question. I asked my mother. Uh, I mean, my mother was a very wealthy person. I mean, she was somebody that could self-fund, but was not happy about separating her money for caregiving or things that she thought were frivolous. I mean, she had an old Cadillac. I mean, she didn't buy a Cadillac or her car every couple of years. She kept things a long time. She kept my father a long time. She kept her kids a long time. She kept her clothes. She was not that kind of spender. I mean, they took great vacation. I mean, we took great vacations. but they weren't frivolous spenders. But she bought, and I asked her, I said, mother, look, you you make a couple of million a year in income, and she had the best, I thought, the best response. And I've said this to others. Sometimes I'll get a reaction. She said, nobody has that much money to spend for their lifestyle and their caregiving.
No, that's probably true.
So, so that's the wisdom of Ruth.
Well, it's interesting. I'm a planner. It's nice to know we don't have long-term care insurance. I thought it was too late, but I've talked to two people recently that are like, no, no, it's not too late. And my health is really good because my mom had Alzheimer's. My maternal grandmother had vascular dementia. My maternal great grandmother had dementia. My dad's side of the family is all diabetes and the obesity gene. I got to deal with the obesity gene every freaking day. But hey, I'm
Welcome to
not,
America.
yeah, for real. But you know, I I'm very meticulous about what I eat. I exercise every day, variety of exercises. Paddleboarded with the dog last night, walked her this morning. I belong to the cult of Peloton, as I like to say. So I think tomorrow is strength training, which I hate that crap, but it's so good for your brain and especially for menopausal women to keep bone density and muscle. So I do all the things to stay healthy. As long as I don't crash on my bike or some crazy thing, which I did crash once, but that was 9 years ago. We're not doing that again. I've only broken one bone in my whole life. That was the bike crash. So I guess I'm okay. I probably should not wait till early 70s though. Maybe I'll get it at 62. I don't know why that number sounds good.
Well, you've had all these things. What has prevented you not from owning it, but what's prevented you from having the conversation with a long-term care person or a financial advisor? What's prevented you from having the conversation?
Mostly just we're self-employed, so my income is never stable enough to feel comfortable.
Welcome to
Yeah,
America.
for real. I don't think that's ever going to change, but you know, and I don't like my financial advisor. I want to switch, but I have to battle the other half of the household on that one. So, once I have more of my own money, I will work with the person that I want to work with, and he can stick with the guy I don't like. So,
That's I've read about that where the financial planners or wealth advisors sometimes or even within generations that if the wealth advisor or financial planner isn't listening to the other, and it's usually the woman, yeah, that uh I'm hanging on that. Try not listening to my wife and see what and see it's it can be really unpleasant. My wife is wonderful. She's exceptional. But don't cross her, or try not to listen. See what happens. But that seems to be typical. Is that and you usually a lot of financial planners, although more and more women, in financial planning, wealth advising, it's still a lot of is men, and they're sort of the thinking is, well, the man will take care of the finances, the woman will do whatever she'll sew or interior decor. Oh, but those days are long gone. I mean, women, there are more women attending colleges. There are more women that are making more money. There are more women that are really in career paths that are that they're really doing well. It would behoove us men to pay to if we're not going to listen, at least we better be empathetic. We better change our circuit board we really do. And to ask and it's not taking somebody seriously. I think that's sort of a cliche. I think it's if we don't understand, we better learn some empathy. We better learn how to understand.
makes sense. I think one of the things that always happened with my parents, my mom would like blurt out a decision. I'm going to do X. What you didn't know, unless you understood her, which I did, is that she didn't just decide, I'm going to repaint the family room or whatever she decided to do. She'd been thinking about it for a long time. You think I might want to do this? I think I'm going to do this. What color would I like to do? Where will I get? Like all of the wheels turned quietly, and then bam. And so it used to drive my dad bonkers because they just seemed like out of the blue, no thought process, just like scatterbrained. And that wasn't her. She was a procrastinator. She liked to do things under pressure, made me crazy. I am not that way. Seriously, don't know how I was raised in the same family as my sister. Like, just I'm very different. But when it comes to financial advisors, I think they should ask couples some general financial questions, like about spending. Like you said, you're not a frivolous spender, but you like to buy things. That's how I am. It's like, I will spend good money on things that I'm not planning on replacing anytime soon, like my computer, my car. When I was a photographer, it was my photography gear. But I go thrifting for clothes because I like lots of variety, and it's expensive to buy a lot of clothes.
So rather than going out and buying a $500 dress or blouse, you'll spend 35 dollars and have 10 or 15 of them.
Exactly. I spent $22 last summer on 3 dresses, one I'm wearing now. And it's like, great. They were 6, 7, and $8. So if I wear them 10 times, I've gotten my money's out of it. And then I can return it to, donate it back to a thrift store, and somebody else can enjoy it for a while, because fast fashion's not good for our planet and the people that are inhabiting the company, the places that make it. So, that's the kind of choices I make. But my husband is a frivolous spender. And guess which one the planner listens to?
Again, it's assumption. So it's asking questions. One of the things you know, what I've learned last few years that I might have said to your mother or to your father to say, say we're going to do this. It seems like this has been on your mind for a while, and then have it. You know, but look, sometimes depending on each personal relationship, sometimes people get used to say, hey, if that's what you want to do, fine. If I want to buy the golf bag or whatever it is, I don't have to ask you. Of course, doing interior decorating, the only thing I'm interested you bring that we're working to refresh our home both inside and out, and there's sometimes where she's very good at it, and I would say it's probably 97% what she wants and 3% what what's really important to me. Maybe whatever the ratio may be, but in most kinds, I just respect her opinion to say to do that because she'll think about it and then say, gee, it seems like you've really spent some time. You're going to do this, and yeah, I did that, and this is what I think we ought to do. And I might say, well, look, I think that's a good idea. Would you mind, if we had this? Oh yeah, yeah, you can have your wicker chair or whatever, whatever you want in the room hey, everybody's happy, or at least we're content.
That makes sense. So where can people find you if they want to ask more questions about True Freedom or other long-term care insurance options? Because I know there's a lot more than there used to be.
The, there's a lot to talk about, in the kind of plans. I just brought up one, but they're hybrid, they're traditional, they're annuities, all kinds of things depending on somebody age, their health assessment, what they want to, the term is what they want to accomplish. There's some plan. One of the problems is that each state. Some states don't have the same plans as other states, and especially for short-term care. And I'm annoyed with NAFA and some of these other, insurance advocate groups, why every state doesn't have a short-term care plan, considering there's, say, Medicaid costs too much, or people don't have, aren't owning. Well, you can't own what you can't get, or
Right.
what isn't available. I remember, I'll do one last one. Remember, what was that beer out of Colorado?
Coors?
Coors, that's right.
And my grandfather drank that, my
Yeah,
maternal grandfather.
it used to be that because you couldn't get it or it was difficult to get in certain states that became the gold standard, or that became I want it because I can't get it. Um, I don't think Coors is that good a beer, but to those that wanted it, or Budweiser, it's because you couldn't have it, so you wanted it. And this is astonishing to me that every state doesn't, say we're going to, as long as it's a good plan and a good company, we're going to approve everything we can approve and encourage people to own it. And they don't. And I don't know why the advocate group, and I've asked people and I get all kinds of answers, none of which I can tell you on the podcast that, uh, uh, you even though they say it isn't an American language, it's in a lot of French, a lot of
Mm.
French, of how they feel about the insurance commissioner and the state, and so if you want to talk to me and have the conversation, you can call me on my phone, and you'll actually reach me directly to area code 253-275-6091. And my website is www.lavineltcins at levineltcins.com. And you can either schedule an appointment, or you can easily, a lot of websites, you can easily find the phone number. And I'm also on social media. So if you put Raymond Levine, if you go on the search engines and put Raymond Levine or Levine LTC benefits, and something will come up about me.
Well, I'll make sure those are. Oh, thank you. I'll make sure those are in the show notes so people don't have to try to remember it. Because I know a lot of people, like myself, listen to podcasts while they're doing other things, and it's like, oh crap, I don't have a piece of paper. Write that phone number down. Don't worry, it's in the show notes. You don't have to find a piece of paper. So I really appreciate this. I love the story about your parents. It's kind of fun to personalize all of these conversations because insurance isn't the most sexy conversation, but it affects everybody, and hearing personal stories is always nice.
Well, thank you, Jennifer. It's been enjoyable to be on your podcast.
Well, thank you.